Hey, hi. Welcome to this new part on AWS Solution Architect Professional Certification. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so. It will help you with AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud certification. So here you have this next question. So there is a company, they want to deploy multiple independent instances of an application. There are both front end and back ends. Front end can face the internet, but the back end they should be isolated from the internet. Okay, and you got to minimize the cost. Okay, so let us look at the requirement recap. So you need to put multiple independent instances, and the internet should be accessible for the front end. For the back end, it should be isolated and should be accessible from a centralized administration server. That means there has to be a management. The management, they say, buddy, give me a center point of access. It's like a control room from where we can control different aspects of the software components. You want automated setup to minimize mistakes. So in this case, automated can be usage of infrastructure as a code, and you want to minimize cost. So this is acting like a constraint. It has to contain the cost. So option A says, buddy, let's use cloud formation, which is fine. Um, but the challenge with A is it is not addressing the isolation piece from the internet for the backend. Your backend, it should not, it should be isolated from the internet. So that piece is missing in A. The problem with B is your VPN connection. It is not cost effective because there are ongoing charges. So this won't work. C, it says we will so duplicate certain things. So they are going to use separate accounts, so you get the maximum isolation. They will use one template that meets your automation needs. They would use VPC peering, so it allows direct network connection between the VPCs. Okay, and cost impact. Cost impact, it is not much. So you got to manage a number of VPC peering connections for each instance. So that can increase your operational cost, but this looks to be the best option. So you set up your IAM and so on. So if you see the screen here, it has the answer. It uses CloudFront as well. The problem with D is it is using NAT gateways, which are expensive. So our final answer would be around making use of IAM, cloud formation, and so on. So which makes option C the most desirable answer in this case. So in this question, you have one placement group, and then you got your EC2 instances in here, where you have number of EC2 instances, and then there is one EC2 instance outside, and you need to communicate with this guy outside, and this guy has a public IP address. So this guy is public. It's like Instagram. You have a open profile for public. So now you are the solution architect. You need to improve the network speed here. This blue one, you want to improve this. So we are very much specific about placement groups in this case. Now in this case, A is telling you that, you know, I lost my diagram. So it's like You have this yellow box and it needs to talk to the blue box, and you want to make sure these guys have the fastest way to talk to each other. So now A is telling that guys, this cannot work because this distance here is too big. So let us terminate this guy here, okay, and bring this guy inside so that it can talk to other EC2 instances as these will be in the same placement group. So will this work? See, if we are just talking about improving network speed, this should work. B says, hey guys, let's ensure the instances are communicating using private IP address. So you this is if you make it private, it is a security solution. It does not necessarily mean the speed of network would improve. C says, guys, let's ensure that the blue box is using ENA. So ENA would not by default address it, even though it is meant to address it, but that by itself, it's like, uh, you are telling ENA is like between yellow box and blue box, you will put a Ferrari instead of Honda Civic. Yeah, that would make it faster. But what if we move that building itself inside the yellow box? So your distance is totally cut out. So you don't need a rocket, you don't need a plane to move faster. The it is now co-located. So C won't work. D says, uh, guys, move the control instance inside placement group. So imagine it's blue box is a big building. We can't move it as it is. We got to dismantle it and rebuild it inside the yellow box. So that's why D won't work because it's just not a question of moving that big entity here. You cannot do that. So you will have to unassemble that, get it inside the yellow box, and assemble it back. It's like in the same way Infosys, it builds its premises using such building blocks so that it is easier to assemble it and it's much faster. The construction time is reduced drastically. Okay, so it's like, if you have something outside a placement group, bring it inside the placement group. That's the fastest way of improving your communication speeds. So A is our answer where we terminate the control instance and relaunch in the placement group. That means the blue building, we dismantle that, save those building blocks, move it inside the yellow box, and then create that building from scratch using those building blocks. So in this question, the story is this way. You have cloud formation templates being used. So you basically have uh, some EC2 instances. Okay, you got some EC2 instances. That is fine, and you have all those cool stuff like auto scaling setup. Fine. This question is a AMI update question. AMI is a Amazon machine image. So it's like, when you create these yellow boxes, you use these images just like your laptop. The people use an image, a Windows image or a Linux image to set up your laptop. So in order to set up these yellow boxes, we have one image. And what the question is saying is, uh, this image might change in future. So all the yellow boxes which are running in production, you should replace with these new images, but you should not take the system down. You should replace it in flight. Like, you see those fighter planes, they get full uh, in air itself. They don't need to land. The same way here, these yellow boxes will be up and running in production, and the update should happen. So uh, the question is saying like how would you do that? So A is telling you that we will make use of change set. The thing is that change set is good for preview, but it does not trigger a replacement of instances. So A won't work in our case. B is telling that guys, let's use launch configuration and we change the deletion policy to replace. So here we are talking about replacement. It's like an update policy, not a delete policy. So in this case, this won't work. And then C looks apt because we are talking about, updating the scaling group resource in the template and we insert a update policy. So with update policy, we are actually telling how these instances will be replaced. So this is perfectly okay to address our requirements. And then D, what it's doing is it is like we are not trying to create something new. So blue green is for that. Here in this case, we should be good with auto scaling, and then we are making use of uh, update policy. So that works fine. Auto scaling groups are already set up, so we will leverage that since the question says I already have this auto scaling feature, so we can leverage that as well. So our answer in this case would be option C, where we make use of auto scaling group and then use an update policy. So this is the next question. And what is the story here? It's like there is a multi-account structure and they have 10 accounts. So the question is saying that it's all scattered. I want everything in one place. Yeah, so I want an organization. So when I see the options A and B, both have organizations being used. See this? And then it says I want full access to EC2 from the master account and secondary account. So if you have access thing, so either you create an access policy or you create a service control policy, and you want to minimize the effort required to add additional secondary accounts. So we see okay. So that is getting addressed by this second portion. So the option A is saying, guys, I will create an organization, which is perfectly fine. You got to put an organization into play, and that is something which we have to do it. But apart from that, we also have to leverage service control policy SCPs. See this? So we create an organization. Option A is better than option B because after creating from the master account, so you have the master account here, okay? And this is your master, and then you're telling your secondary, these are your slaves. So you're telling your slave accounts or secondary accounts, you're sending an invitation. The master sends an invitation, buddy, I am throwing a party. Would you want to join? So the secondary accounts, they need to accept the invitation and create an OU organization unit. So this is the standard way. Okay, it addresses requirement one and sets stage for three. And then we leverage SCPs. So what it does is you use it to give maximum permissions. In this case, you have to give full access. So that is pretty. The problem with B is that, you know, once you create a master, the master should send invitations. In this case, they are saying that the secondary accounts they will send join request. But how will the secondary accounts know that the master account has been created? They won't have a way to know that. So it's always the master who will have to initiate that, and that's why this option is incorrect. And the thing with C, it's saying that let's create a VPC peering connection between master account and secondary accounts. Uh, so this option is irrelevant in this case. In this case, we are talking about account consolidation. It is not about two entities talking to each other over a network, but it is about account consolidation. He says, guys, let us create a full access policy for EC2 instances and map the policy to a role in each account. Trust every other account to assume the role. So this is very inefficient. Okay, the question expects you to minimize your efforts, not to maximize this. This guy is maximizing our efforts. So our answers are A and D in this case. Is we set up an organization, we send invitations. The master sends invitations to the service accounts, or sorry, secondary accounts. They accept invitations, and then we set up a SCP for full EC2 access and attach the policy to the OUs. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this part. I hope you have subscribed. If not, do so. This will help you with AWS, Google Cloud, and GCP, Google Cloud and Azure Cloud certifications. This brings us to the end of this part where we look at some questions, analyze the options. Each question has four options. So, in summary, we are actually analyzing four different topics. So, this is a very difficult certification exam, but with the content that we are posting, it should be relatively easy for you to clear the certification. Now, there will be certain content put on cloud kernel member area, so you can become a cloud kernel member and gain access to those videos as well. So I hope you were able to understand the right answers, understand the logic we put behind each explanation, and then read out the options so that you arrive at the right answer. See you in the next part. Ciao.